Jessica, welcome to the Retail Whore Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super stoked to be here.
I'm going to give everyone a little bit of background. As podcasters, you're a podcaster as well. You get a lot of letters from agents that are, whoever they're agenting, they're proposing you to be, somebody to be on your podcast. And 9 times out of 10, I'll be honest, like I listen to them like, no, because it's, in retail, it's a lot of as Matt from Fine Lines, who's one of our sponsors, says, it's a lot of old white guys, like very,
oh my gosh,
driven. There's no fun. And so she sends me the client's reel, and it's your interview with her. And the first thing, the first 30 seconds, you had the F-bomb. And I'm like, oh my God, I want her. That's literally I wanted you. I've signed her now on, but you were literally, I'm like, okay, put the lady to the side. I am getting a hold of you. And then the more I read about you and the more I have had interaction with you, I'm like, I said to my husband, I think she's my new best friend.
Yes, I love it.
I wanted to geek out on you for a second.
Yeah. And when it's funny because I had come across you on Instagram and you were on my list. I'm like, oh, I need to reach out. And I just love the freaking name so much of the podcast. And I was like, oh, she's going to get me. I need to connect with her. And then, of course, entrepreneurship happens, and it's been on my to-do list for a really long time. So thanks for making the first move.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So I told you off camera, everyone that listens to already knows there are no preset questions on any of these interviews. It's literally a conversation between people. And that's why I love this, is because it's a natural conversation. It's not like these pre-queued questions. So give everybody a little bit of information about yourself, including some of the stuff you have in your bio that I was dying on that people need to know.
Yeah, you got it. So it all started when I used to sleep in my new shoes as a little girl. That is a very true story. And obviously later on down the road, I ended up going into retail. And I remember when I got my first job at Contempo Casuals when I was 16, my first retail clothing job. And I just thought I was the shit. I was the coolest thing ever.
White Seal.
Yes. Yeah. Same company. Are we aging ourselves? Do listeners even know what that story is? But that was really the beginning of it all. And 20 plus years have gone by, and I've literally done every single thing in retail there is to do, I think. And my most recent gig was, if you have children near you, earmuffs, is I used to sling dildos on the internet. And that was some of the most fun I've ever had. And it's kind of, there's that saying if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Well, if you can sell a product that you can't advertise on social media, that you get no organic reach from, if you can be successful doing that, you can literally sell ice to an Eskimo.
Yes.
And, I loved what I did, didn't love who I did it for. And it was when Shopify and MailChimp broke up, and I was hanging out with a whole bunch of entrepreneurs and Facebook groups and things, and everyone was freaking out and nobody knew what to do. And so I just started talking to them about my favorite platform, Klaviyo. And people started messaging me. And they were like, oh, I'm on Klaviyo, but I don't know how to use it. Can you help me? Or, oh, I really struggle with email. Can you help me? And I was like, oh, wait, people will actually pay me to help them with their business? This is so weird. And that's how Ecommerce Badassery was born, completely by accident, but it's the best job I've ever had.
I have to unpack a little bit of this. Sleeping in shoes, because I used to, the day before school, I was so excited, not about school. I was so excited about wearing my new clothes that I literally sometimes I'd sleep in them, but most part, I'd lay them out the night before. And again, I am not excited about going to school. I'm excited to show up in my new outfit. Tell me the sleeping in the shoes.
It's so funny. I can still, and I don't remember what year this was. So I grew up in New York, and, we started school the Wednesday after Labor Day.
Oh,
so I remember, it was very exciting because it was time to wear your fall clothes. But as the years went on, it stayed hotter longer. But I would still, even though it was hot, I was wearing like my new knee-high boots and my sweater dress because I was just so excited to wear those things. And then it just like living in California now, that's the thing I miss the most is my fall wardrobe. Like I get to wear a leather jacket twice a year. Otherwise it's just too hot. But that is what I miss the most. And then in terms of the shoes, like, and it's one of those, I don't know if I remember it or if it's just because my mom has reminded me of it so many times. But I do have this memory of going to a shoe store. And I think I had gotten a gift certificate or something for my birthday. And I was little, like I think single digits little. And I fell in love with these shoes. And I also remember there kind of being a problem usually finding my size. So it was like the shoes I wanted and they had them in my size. And I was so excited. And we go up to the register and we were in the wrong store. It's not the store that the gift certificate was for.
Oh,
and there was this moment and I was raised by a single mom, like money was always a thing. And I think I had this moment of, oh my God, like I'm not going to get these shoes. She bought them for me anyway. Thank you, Mom. If you're listening, I will forever appreciate you for that. And I don't know if that was the beginning of it or if I was already doing it, but I will say as an adult, my obsession for shoes has continued. My husband breaks my chops about it all the time. He had like one pair of shoes when I met him.
Yeah.
It's rubbed off a little bit. He has like 6 now. But still pales in comparison to my collection.
And then the next question is, how does one get a job? Because back up now, dildos are advertised on social media. If you look at Free People sells them now, women-owned Wallet sells. They look like little pickles, it's hilarious. Like because I'm like, my nickname is Prue for prude because I talk a good game, but I get super squirmy and really uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay, I'm embracing this. But so many people's it's very normal now. Like, hey,
yeah.
So how does one get a job selling dildos?
Yeah.
And I get like,
great question. She's like joking, just saying the word.
How do you upsell these items? Like, oh, by the way, you also this.
So I was working for a small boutique company here in LA, and they were opening new locations when I started. So I think they had 5 or 6 locations at the time. And, having worked in retail for so long, I was the one who they would send to all the new store openings. And if a store wasn't doing well, I was the cleaner, right? Okay, we need to figure out what's going on, retrain everybody, hire new people, whatever it is. So I was that person. And I ended up working very closely with the retail director. So he eventually left the company to go work for this other company as the director of retail. And then he recruited me there. And I remember being really unsure about whether or not I should go and thinking, what does this look like on my resume after I leave here? And I took some time to really think about it. And at the end of the day, I thought, you know what? If there's the company who doesn't want to hire me because of this, then I probably don't want to work for them. At the time, I didn't realize I was going to just end up going into business for myself. So this was very heavy on my mind. And I just dove in. And I wouldn't say I was prude, but I wasn't like fully the opposite, whatever the opposite of prude is. I was somewhere in the middle. But after spending 7 years there, it just changes you.
Talk a good game, I bet.
Yeah, it just changes you. But you know what? It was a business like any other. We struggled to get traffic to our website. We struggled to convert them. We had to figure out how to raise our AOV. How do we lower our costs and our shipping costs? And that business was already established. I think they had 13 retail stores when I started. They have like 30 something now.
Wow.
But it was just like any other business. And I learned so much, more than I could ever learn, I think, anywhere else, because it wasn't my business, but it felt like it was my business. I was the only employee of the e-com division for the first 3 years. So, when I tell my students, clients, podcast listeners, like, I know what it feels like to be you, I actually do. And it's, I cried a lot at that job.
Joy, tears of frustration.
Both. Probably more frustration.
I mean, you're right. I think without getting too much deeper into it, but I think that if you can sell that, I mean, I think salespeople are natural. It's funny when I'm merchandising in stores, if we're open, which is usually rare because usually I try and get in there before the store opens. Like I was at a new client's, which is a car wash, and car wash and pharmacies have hands down some of the best gifts ever. But we were there, early, but the doors opened, and I have this overwhelming desire as people walk in, like, hi, how are you? Like I'm greeting the customers. And even though you said you're a much better person than I am. But I'm like, I don't know if it's natural, but it's weird because when I realize when you're busy and you're doing things, I am the best salesperson ever. Like, people come, hey, can you tell me that? Yeah, sure. But if you stuck me in that store and said, you have to sell, like, here you go, I would be like, hi. I mean, and there's something, but it truly, like, I feel like if you can sell anywhere, especially, when it's something like that, where you're learning everything from the inside. I think that's so exciting though. What a great way to learn things is hands-on. I feel like is the best education ever.
The best way. And, my background is in brick and mortar, and I didn't work in their stores, but I always, and this is what I tell everyone, and anytime I am, trying to help someone grow the e-commerce piece of their business, I'm always asking, how can I recreate the in-person experience on the internet? People are always talking about brick and mortar is dead. It's dying. It's never going to die.
Thank you.
It is an experience, right? I mean, me and my mom, because we can't talk about politics, we have lunch and go shopping. Like that's what we do together. And you're never going to replace that. Like brick and mortar is always going to be a thing. So my question is always, how do I recreate the in-person experience on the internet? Part of that is merchandising. It's such a big piece of it. And part of it is just the way you market your business, what you say on social and in your emails and even on your website and how it's organized. There's so much that goes into it. But I find that if we start from that lens, like if I were in person with this person, what would I say? What would I ask them? Where would I send them? And that can make a huge difference in the online experience for sure.
I want to get into that because I think that's a huge question and it had come up, but I want to dive a little bit into your 20 years of your own store.
So it's 20 years retail, but I did have my own store in there. Yeah.
What type of store was it? Gift or apparel or both?
Apparel. It was apparel and accessories. That was always my jam. It was contemporary-ish. So, we had the $150 jeans and the going out tops. It was in the 2000s. That was the thing. Jeans, going out top, heels.
Frankie,
still a thing? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. It's kind of come full circle. It's back to that. It's, there's that whole thing of saying like, are the Frankie B low rise?
Oh gosh, please no.
Skinny legs or skinny ones are out, but they're actually still back. I mean, it's like there's some, but it's still really all about that super sexy top, a great pair of expensive denim that doesn't have to be expensive, but a great pair of denim that is going to be able to go from day to night. And then for me, I wear flip flops only. I can't wear heels, but for a great pair of heels. I mean, that's still hands down, I feel like the thing that every female needs.
Yeah, that's my go-to. And that's pretty much what we sold, and I was working in another boutique because this was still in New York. And actually that company was the first time I ever realized how big the boutique space was because I had always just worked in corporate.
Yeah.
And I really fell in love with it. And then that owner, he made some bad business decisions and it was 2008 and things were going crazy and he kind of overextended himself. And so the space became available. So I decide in the wake of the 2008 housing crash and recession, let me open up a brick and mortar boutique. That's a smart idea. And what's crazy is one of the guys who was like the IT guy for this boutique company, he was talking to one of the other store managers, and they were looking to take over the same space that I was to start a store. So we ended up in a bidding war, completely overpaying for the rent for the place, but I wanted it and I was going to do it. And we just made it happen. The good news is it all worked out because I did $650,000 in my first year and it was fine.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But mind you, right, I had already worked in that area. I had a book. I had a client book. I brought in other people who had client books because that was such a big focus.
Okay, I just want to stop for 1 second and say, because that is one of those things, even though everything is text and like, I still think client books are hands down one of the biggest tools for success that you can have, because it sounds like the challenge is getting people's email addresses, which I'm sure you can kind of give everyone. But I think that client book, hands down, is like the best selling tool ever.
Absolutely. And I did share a wall with Starbucks. So that helped.
Yeah.
Location. If you're going to go brick and mortar, you can't be off the beaten path unless you want to pay for all that traffic. So, there were a lot of things. I had a lot of legs up when I was starting out. But you know what? I made all the same mistakes. I bought more dresses than I could ever possibly sell because I thought they were cute, right? I screwed up. Even though I went to school for fashion merchandising, I still messed it up. So it happens. But it was really understanding, what does my customer want? She wants the jeans that are going to fit really good, make her butt look great. And I know she's willing to spend $150 to $180 on them. I can sell those all day. When it comes to that dressy top, the minute it gets above $100, it's a hard sell. But if it's 99 or under, I can sell it all day.
Interesting.
Right. But those are the things that you learn just by doing and having the conversations. And I fell into the same trap I think a lot of boutique owners do, is you start a boutique not because you want to have a business, but because you love to be around the clothes and you want to do all the buying and pick everything out. And it's so fun, right? Well, yeah, it's math, friend. Like, retail is math.
Thank you.
And like I said, I screwed it all up, even though I knew better, but we ended up, doing really great. And I would never do it again, probably, but it was some of the most fun I had.
Okay, so had you ever bought before? I mean, because this is not the first conversation I've had with somebody that just on a whim, also during the crash, like decides they're going to, that had never owned a store, never bought. And I'm always like, because I learned from the ground up from my mentor, Fred Siegel, and Michael Campbell, who was his partner at the time. And I later became partners. But I had no idea. Like, I had to go through the Michael Campbell school of buying, and it was going to every single show and understanding, the sizes and what worked. And how does one just show up at market? Like, it is like mind blowing. And then of course you're going to make mistakes, but you still, did a phenomenal business. Like, what was what show did you go to? And like, what was it like just rolling down the aisles? Like, and were you stopping at everything? Like, I love that. I want that. And was there any kind of budget? Like, so many questions.
Great question. So I don't even remember. It was one of the big ones in New York. I can't even remember the name of it now. I feel like it ran the same time as the accessory show. I don't remember what it's called, but really it was just years of experience of working in retail, talking to customers. And then obviously in that boutique business as well, I did have, the pleasure of working really closely with the buyer there and the owner. And I did study fashion merchandising. And I actually, right out of college, I did have a job at a children's wear manufacturer as the assistant to the planner there. And it was funny because I was a little bit of a late bloomer. It took me like 6 years to get a 4-year college degree because I went to school part-time because I had to work full-time so that I could afford to live and eat and all that stuff. So I was a little bit older graduating college, but I remember going to my first day at that office, and I was the youngest person there. This business had been around forever. And there I am, like with my purple streaked hair. And I remember people being like, you kind of look like you don't belong here. And I was like, I kind of feel like I don't belong here, but I'm paying my dues. I'm learning the things. And I ended up leaving there to go get this boutique job. And it was just funny because, I went to school for fashion merchandising, and my thought was I'm going to climb the corporate buying ladder, right? And I'll be the merchandising director, and you think you're going to do all these things. And then I'm like, I'm really bored. Like, I am so bored by
a lot of spreadsheets.
Yeah, it's definitely more math than anything else. And, you think you want something. I was living in the suburbs, about 30 minutes outside of the city, and I was commuted to the city for school and then work. And I was like, I love this city, but this is making me hate the city. And it's taking my joy away, and I don't want to ruin it. So I'm going to get myself out of this. I'm going to go do something else. Retail management, I can do that in my sleep, right? I've been doing it for so long already. And then this can just become joyful. So it was an interesting space to be in, but I already, because I had been working with that client for so long in those stores, when I went to that show, I knew exactly who I was going to.
That's amazing.
Exactly what brands I wanted. And that was it. And the only thing that sucked is, they're not even around anymore. And it makes me so sad because they're literally my favorite jeans ever. And my butt has never looked so good as they did in J brand jeans.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my favorite. And they had all the perfect legs. They had the 12-inch, the 14-inch, the 16-inch. Oh, so good. So sad to see them gone. But because of zip code protection, they wouldn't sell them to me. And I was like, But, I
had a lot of that crying for lines. Like the interview I had a couple days that posted, I think it was last week or the week before, he had been he was the graphic artist for Paul Frank, and I wanted that line so bad. And, zip code protection, somebody in the Fred Siegel building had it. And it was like, I told him I was so bitter, but I love I love that you said you've done every single job there is to do in retail, because that's the same thing I say. Like, that's the reason why it's called the retail whore. Cause I literally have done every job, like including stock rooms. But I feel like, to be honest, that is, for anybody listening to the podcast that isn't in retail yet, that isn't sure, honestly, like doing time in those stores, and some of it's not fun, but honestly, it is the best education because it's hands-on. And I feel like I've had a lot of girls that come out of FITM, and I think education is very important, but I feel like sometimes when you are in school for some of these situations, you have to be in it in a hands-on to know how to respond to it. And it's like, all of interns were doing other jobs like years ago, and they were like fresh in school or fresh out of school. And it was like, okay, we've got, we have 2 days to get this done. Let's go. And something would go wrong. And it was like, they'd freeze. I don't know what to do. I was like, okay, well, we have to figure out, like, what are we going to do? And that's one thing I realized, that God loves school and everything, but it's like, it doesn't teach you the what ifs. And that is the gift of putting in time in these stupid jobs you don't want to go to. Because there is a lesson in there, and it is what you're going to take on to the next job and the next job. And whether it be a career like mine or a career like yours, like all of these little pieces of the puzzle are what help form a very strong retail merchant or an e-com merchant. Like, it's all this is like super important. I love that you said that. So
yeah, my pleasure. It's funny, like for so many years when I was trying to get out of the retail space and I didn't want to work in stores anymore, like I was just, even when I lived after moving to California, I was working at a retailer in the Citadel outlets, and we would open at 10 p.m. on Thanksgiving night and be open all night long. And, as the store manager, I had to be the one that was there, like literally pushing through people I couldn't even open the front door because they were so close. Just waiting.
That just gives me that's like,
so much anxiety. And I was like, I'm too old for this shit. I can't do this anymore. But I think people that are not in retail, but retail people in this box of like, oh, they're just retail people. They can't do anything else. When actually retail people can literally do anything.
Yep.
Like they are the Swiss Army knife of business.
Love that. Swiss Army knife.
Because we've had to do all the things. And that first job at Contempo Casuals, I remember my manager gave me a rolling rack of clothes and there was an empty bay. And I think it was a 4-foot bay. She said, merchandise this. And I was like, all right. Didn't know what I was doing. It probably took me my whole shift, right? But by the end, it looked amazing. And that was one of like the thing that made me fall in love with visual merchandising in the first place. But, like there's just no better way to learn, really.
That was me, what seal it was. I don't know. Did Contempo have the slat wall? And it was like a puzzle of
I think so.
That was for what seal, and it was like me and that I call it the Mary Had a Little Lamb hook thing that reaches things up, and it was it was a puzzle of putting these outfits together, and some of it was what we were supposed to do, and some of it I just went on and did my own thing, and it's that working out that puzzle is truly still what I love about what I do now is standing in a store, whether it be apparel or gift, and standing there and figuring out how the puzzle works. Like that is, I could do that all day long. It gives me so much joy. And it all comes from that very first experience in retail. And it's like, I love talking to people about this because it's very rare to hear somebody that is now consultant that has done all the retail things. Because what you come to the table, and we're going to start talking about your business now, what you come to the table, like you said in your bio and just a few minutes ago, is that you are coming to them with because you've already done it. It's not because this is what I learned in school or this is what, you literally have been in the trenches just as they have. And I think that a lot of retailers, that's what they need to know is that, but have you done this? Or have you this is what I'm going through? And do you be able to step up and say, absolutely, I did it. And this is how. So talk to me a little bit about how your brand was born and how you work with people. Is there a private consultant or I think you do classes as well, masterclass. So talk a little bit about that. And then I want to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of a little bit of what people can do to get, more interest in their website or the merchandising part of the website and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do too many things. I actually do the thing that I tell other people not to do. And I offer too many things. But the main thing that I really try and focus on now is I do have a membership that's all about e-commerce marketing. How do you get more traffic? How do you convert more people, make more money, put more money in your pocket? Because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And it's called The Lounge. But then I also have some digital courses and I do some one-on-one consulting things. But really the membership is where it's at. And you get so much access to me and my co-host who teaches ads, which is amazing. And her name is Nicole. I think she's in her mid-20s now. And I'm always like, man, if I was doing in my 20s what she's doing in hers, the young one, I would be in a much better place than I love my life, right? But I'm just like, man, in my 20s, I was just I was spending a lot of time partying when I was her age.
I'm telling you, that's why I'm I feel like when I read your bio, I seriously feel like this is somebody I've known in another life.
Yes, the universe has brought us together for a reason. So that's where I spend the majority of my time. And it's really, what I try and remind people is this is your business and you get to build it and run it your way. And just because you see somebody out there and it's multi-seven figures and all of this and they're killing it on social and you see the highlight reel of everyone's business. And so much of it is just fake. It is fake because I have been behind those businesses. They're not paying themselves that much, or they're not freaking happy, or the business has just kind of gotten away from them and it's, taking them away from their family and all this stuff. So my real big thing is just keep your eyes on your own paper, build the business that you want to build so that it fulfills the lifestyle you want and not the other way around. And just the other day, someone posted in the lounge and said, I just did my month end because I'm super on them about doing their numbers.
That's so good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So important. That's all we ever did was numbers. Like working in retail, you're breaking it down to the hour per associate.
Numbers
how much they should be. Yeah. How much they should be generating. So I really harp on them about it. But she just made some big changes in her business, letting go of a lot of categories that weren't moving and just really leaning on the one that drives her business. And she said, so my sales are down from last year, but I'm more profitable.
That's amazing. It's the number part of it, because I talk to people about this all the time, is that you need to know your numbers. The numbers don't lie. And what's driving because I think a lot of owners, because we've had open to buy people here, and it's I think a lot of people, it's an open to buy.
Buy. Yeah, totally.
And it's I said to somebody just the other day, it's I think a lot of owners go through their store and it's I can tell what's selling. It's okay, let's pull up the report and see how much of this is driving your business. And it's very eye-opening because what your eye is telling you also doesn't show your shoplifting. It doesn't show your damages or dropped it on the ground. You just see one left. See, we sold them all. It's no, you didn't. And you're not going by your reports. Numbers don't lie. And I got interviewed yesterday for furniture, lighting, and decor. And that was about prepping yourself for 2024. And it was one of the biggest things is one, know who you are buying for, clean up your buys, and know what your budget is. Truly get into your numbers, into the nitty gritty of what's driving your business, and get rid of the stuff that's not selling. Yes, you may love personal care still. You may love that department. But sister, if it is sitting there for months and it is taking so much time to sell, that is sitting dollars. And a lot of the times, and I don't know if you hear this, but it's but as soon as I get rid of it, they ask, do you have personal care? So I bring it back in. It's you always are going to have somebody who's going to ask for something you don't have, but you can't, doesn't mean you have to react to it.
Yeah. 1 or 2 asks is not enough.
Thank you.
It's just not enough. And, I fall victim to this too. Like I said, when I had my brick and mortar boutique, I don't even wear dresses, but they were so cute. And I just bought too damn many of them. And, that is money that I could have invested into more tops or a higher margin item.
Yeah.
And we have to separate, this is a business and you have to treat it like a business. And if you put the effort in up front, right, to really get clear on what people are buying, invest more in that, you get to put more profit in your pocket, and then you can go buy all the pretty things that you want to buy for yourself and enjoy them for yourself.
How do you suggest people do that?
The easiest way, if you're brand new to this, is just keep it simple at the category level. Dresses, denim, tops, start there. And then you can start breaking it down a little bit more depending upon your product assortment. But you also need to consider your margin on these things. You need to balance out your margin. So when I would bring in those Hudson denim, for instance.
Oh, Hudson.
I didn't I know. I didn't have a good margin on them, right? I got 50% was basically all I got. You had all of the Bloomingdales and Nordstroms of the world selling them too. So it's not like I could mark them up. I had to just sell them when I sold them at. But I could bring in the jewelry and scarves and little tees and things like that weren't necessarily branded, but they were super cute. And I could get a higher margin on those and ultimately try and balance out at about 60%. Otherwise, you can't make any freaking money. My electric bill alone every month was hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It was crazy.
What were you? Yeah. How many lights did you have?
A lot. It was a lot. I don't remember the square footage, but it was a pretty big place. It was pretty big. And it was already built out. So, but definitely just start at the category level. And so the example who I was just talking about, where her revenue is down, but her profit is up, she had graphic tees and jeans and accessories and sweaters and all of these categories. And I said, well, what's driving your business? What's your best seller? The graphic tees. I just said, okay, so get rid of this other stuff. You can bring it in. Maybe you bring in a small little collection at the beginning of fall, or you bring it in just for holiday. But ultimately, your website needs to look like a graphic tee website. You need to show your graphic tees every single day that you're posting on social media, every single day that you send an email, and just focus on those. And I like to tell everyone, bring them in with the best and then sell them the rest, right? If you think about a brick and mortar, you put your best stuff in the window. What's going to get them to walk in? You put your best and newest stuff up front. And then as they go through, you have the sales associate to show them this other thing, right? And then you have the impulse stuff at the cash wrap. And so you can do that same thing on the internet. And that's how you should think about part of your buying as well.
So that just made me think, because much like apparel, having your best things up front, gift is the same thing. You need to be constantly turning your focal points. Your windows need to change often and frequently. A lot of it is because you have the same customers. So, and they're walking by your window and they're looking in, they see that front, whether it be front rail and the focus table. And if it doesn't change often enough, they will continue walking, even though you may have new receipts. They're just not the first thing they see. And that's why it needs to be the first thing they see. So how does that translate to e-com? Because it's funny, I had heard a while back, somebody had hired this consulting group that Walmart hired them because the shopping experience they felt in store, which I really want to call an experience. I'm sorry, Walmart, but the experience they felt that people were getting in the store did not mirror the website. And they were trying to get it where it felt like the same experience. So how does that translate to e-com?
Yeah, great question. It all starts with your homepage and your navigation bar, probably the two most important things. And when I say homepage, I really mean that top banner, whatever is the first thing they see when they land there. Because if you were to put a heat mapping software on your website, you will find that most people don't scroll. And they're just going to see whatever you show them in that top banner. So when we're going into holiday, when we're recording this, your homepage should be dressed up for holiday. The same way you would dress up your windows and all of that. You got to get people in the mood. You have to show them what is it that you want to be important. Because while there's obviously a balance in the buying, right? Like I bought too many dresses because the people just didn't want them. But at the same time, people will think about and buy what you tell them to think about and buy. There's definitely a balance in it there, but it's whatever you're putting in that top banner is the thing you want them to do. And it needs to be really clear in a matter of seconds what it is that you sell. And then your navigation bar too. That's how most people shop. If you're talking about a store like Amazon and probably even a store like Walmart, people go there already knowing what they're looking for and they're going to the search bar. They're not I don't browse Amazon.
Hell no.
Yeah, that would literally take all day. So, but on a typical e-com website, you are browsing through the categories. And so using the apparel example, right? If denim is a really big thing, which I think anyone who sells denim, it probably drives a pretty good piece of their business. Denim, I'm not going to hide that under bottoms. I'm going to put denim as the parent link and make sure it's the first thing that they see. If I have a gift guide because it's holiday season, that needs to be in my navigation bar. So I think we create this, static homepage and this static navigation bar, and we never go back. And that would be like never changing your front window.
That would be my website. I understand that. I'm all, oh my God.
Yeah, right. Like mannequins would be all dusty and right, like just not a cute look, or it'd be the only one left. Oh my gosh, guys, if you have a brick and mortar and you're selling out of something, please take it off your mannequin. Because the other thing too is I use mannequins as this example. Anyone who has spent any time in retail knows that a customer will walk in, see a mannequin and say, I want that.
Yep.
They don't look around. I want what's on the mannequin, because people can't make decisions and people don't know how to dress themselves. And even though we think they want to browse around, some of them do, but most of them don't. So you can also think about how you're presenting your product on social, in email, on your website, as you've got to create the mannequin for them.
Do you think your social media and your e-com should mirror each other? Like if you're talking about like these great new outfits, blah, 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 do you think like, cause I think one, you're going to click the link and you're going to go right to the website. Like I would think that's what you want. Okay. That's what I want. That's what we're talking about. But I know that means a lot of tech. I mean, I know that means somebody going in there, like, especially if you're doing social media every day as you should, like, how do you suggest them balancing the two, and how do they marry?
Yeah, great question. And it totally depends on your assortment. Generally, I will say, as long as you're focused at the category level, right? So if you're talking about graphic tees all the time, make it really easy for them to find your graphic tees. It doesn't necessarily have to be the exact individual one, because that can get exhausting. The good news is now with, Instagram Shop, you can link them to that exact item, which is always good. But I think overall, if you stick to the category level, you're usually pretty good.
Have you had a lot of interaction and seen a lot? Because I had an agent for influencers for TikTok, and she's the one that gets like the deals for Nike and AI Greens, and how much the TikTok shop is generating. And to be honest, it sounds as if TikTok is going to end up being bigger than Amazon as far as the shopping experience. And it's all based on social media and influence and getting your stuff in front of the camera. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Because I've been having these conversations with clients and students and stuff, and I can't wait to see what happens, and it's really going to depend a little bit on who your customer is, which so much of what you do and the marketing decisions that you make depend on who you sell to. If you have a young customer, then you better be there. Yeah. If you're selling to my mom, who's a boomer, she's not going to find you on TikTok, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, good. So know who your customer is.
Yeah, that is definitely the first thing. But ultimately, I think at the end of the day, you have to innovate and try. And it might not work for you, and it might work for somebody else. And you're going to think, man, why does it work for them and not for me? Well, because your business is different, and that's okay. But I definitely think it's worth it to try it. And again, that younger generation, they are social media shoppers.
Well, one thing I realized, it's like, the older generation is still very much Facebook. And it's like, I can't stand Facebook anymore. Like, I don't do anything with my Facebook for business. And it's probably bad because I should be hitting it on all levels. But I've seen more, in which I was really surprised. I'll get a lot of business off of Instagram for people, because what I do is like, apparently someone said it's like finding a unicorn, trying to find merchandisers.
Yeah.
And, if you, depending on what the hashtag, I've gotten so many job leads, but lately a lot of it's coming from TikTok. And I was like, I'm not doing TikTok. I'm not dancing. I'm not doing that bullshit. And after talking to, our guest with the agent for TikTok, and I was like, okay. And then also Crystal Media talking about, getting out there and putting it out. And it's like, I've realized the value of it, but who I'm talking to is young retailers and older retailers, but it is interesting that it's not all really young people that are finding me on TikTok, which is good. But I feel like my mom, like Faith, she got off Instagram because she thought somebody was trying to take her our identity.
See? Yeah. Well, and it look, it depends so much. I think there's so many layers to this. So one, if it's someone who is looking to hire a professional, right? They know if they have any marketing chops whatsoever, that there are cool, educated people and things on TikTok. So they're going to go and use it for research, right? But if you are selling a physical product to the end user, your perfect customer may or may not be there.
True.
But there's another layer of this. And I just had this conversation with a founder the other day, because the biggest thing that I'm hearing from retailers in person and online in 2023, sales are down and organic reach on social is trash. And ultimately, if you don't love it and it doesn't bring you any kind of joy, and there's something else that you can do that's going to get you a similar result in your business, then don't do it. Because that's going to come through in all of the content that you create. You're not going to be able to stay consistent, and you're not going to get the result that you're looking for. But I know other e-com businesses, products that they created, invented on their own, they have actually turned themselves into the content creator. So as the founder, they're the product designer and the content creator, and that's it. Yeah. And they blew up on social. They don't have to run ads, but they love it.
Yeah, it definitely comes out of that. And I think also, comfort is it's not going to come your first or second time doing this. Like it's going to, the longer I do this, this started from lives and I was like all tongue tied but as it's gone on, like now it's like so second nature. Now doing TikTok reels or TikTok and reels and doing, green screens and stuff like that. Now it's like, cause it would be horrible. Like, oh my God, I have a double chin. Look at this.
Oh yeah, totally.
Just spend hours like just tearing yourself apart. And now, and Crystal Media says this all the time, like no one is looking at that. Like they're
really not.
And if you are not comfortable and you aren't coming out as you, it's not going to read. So that's interesting to hear you say, because I think everyone's like, no, just do it. And it's like, you're right. If you're not comfortable, it's going to come off like that. And it's like, not going to be like, it's definitely going to be like, she is not comfortable. Like,
yeah. And here's the thing, like there is power in being comfortable with being uncomfortable and doing it anyway, right? And seeing the magic on the other side. And that is part of it. And I actually, when I started this business, I was like, oh crap, I have to be the face of it. Like I'm asking people to invest in me, Jessica, the human, not selling a physical product, which I think selling physical products is way easier, by the way.
Yeah.
So I had to get over that. Like I did not have a choice. And so what I did was I did a lot of live, and I'm using quotation marks here, live video that no one will ever freaking see. So I could get comfortable with the tech and seeing myself looking back at me.
So how do you do that?
So I made a dummy Facebook group that nobody else was in, and I went live in it.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Right?
I love that.
I practiced myself. I did some just like video. So using Loom, right? Just recording myself on the camera, like all the different ways so I can get used to all the different tools and tripping over my words and all of that stuff. And I just did it and I got over it. And that was really important for my business. But what I find, especially in the physical product space, is we put so much emphasis on social media because we think it's free. Social media ain't free, friend. It is time, energy, brain space, creative bandwidth.
Yeah.
And if there is something else you could do, like send a freaking email to your list, it will probably make you more money. So if you struggle with social or it's not giving you the result that you want, I would rather see you go all in on something like email, or even potentially starting ads or partnering with another small business or going to an in-person thing. Like get all of that firing on all cylinders first, and then deal with the, uncomfortableness of learning social media.
So let me ask you a question, because I ran into this myself. It was, obviously because you see so many people where, their IG's hijacked and it's like, or shut down for whatever reason. And everyone thinks like, oh, I have this big audience, but PS, if that gets cut off, that's all your contacts. If you don't have emails are the only thing you actually own. So, I started doing, I tried to keep up with the blogs. I can't, I have too much shit I'm doing. It's like when I tried to do the blogs, Elisa, who was my marketing manager, who's also my best friend, was like, I need your blog post. I need your blog post. And I'd be in the middle of the show and I'm like, I don't even know what to think about. Like I can't. So I just gave up. But in doing so, it was like trying to get like, hey, everybody, give me your email, send us your email. You'll be the only person, you're the only parties that are getting this email. This is information that no one else is going to get. That's from me. And to try and get emails today from people, and this will go back to a client book, trying to get people's information so you can send them an email is very challenging. Like a lot of people don't. And I would say, I'm not going to blast you. I'm not going to send you a million. Because I have friends that have sent out so many emails and it's like, oh my God, like, you have to do it. But I just was like, I didn't want it. I feel like that's why people don't want to give your email address. And what's weird is like, I was never on my website this is something marketing did. I was never on my website for the pod page. And I finally went in there because I had to, because Elisa's not with me anymore. I was like, okay, you got to man up and do some of this stuff on your own. It was like that I avoided because I'm not tech. And if you listen to the podcast, I'm not tech. But going in there and navigating, I'm like, holy shit, we have a lot of email addresses and I haven't even asked for them. I've done nothing, but tell everyone a little bit about like, what are some suggestions to get, if you have a client book and you're asking for their personal information, you can keep their sizes. There's so much you can do with the client book. How do you get people to feel comfortable to give you that information so you can start building your email address? So if you do, God forbid, get shut down, you still have what you really own.
Yeah. The very first thing is to just be human. We get so much in our heads, right, about building our email list and asking for their emails, or if we're in person, like how do we get them to give us our information? Like we get so caught up in our head, but really this is just a human who is looking for help with something, right? They have a problem they're trying to solve, or they just want their butt to look really good in a pair of jeans. That was always the thing, still my thing. I love a good round tush, right? So we have to just remember that these are just people who need help with something. And if we can be the person to help them and we can articulate that value to them, they will give us their information. So when you're in person, if you're talking about a brick and mortar, that's way easier to do. I think it's just a conversation of what are you looking for? Let me take notes. Like if they see that it is for you to serve them, they're going to be more than happy to give that stuff up. When you're online, it can be a little bit harder to articulate, right? Like, how do we get them to say yes? Ultimately, there has to be something in it for them. There just does. People are protecting their email addresses more, for sure, because crappy marketers ruined email marketing. But it still works really well. So that doesn't mean that you don't try. And one of the things that I think it's taken for granted in the physical product space is some sort of educational PDF. If you don't want to just give a discount, which is always an easy way to do it, by the way, people love a discount. It doesn't train them to wait for discounts. It just takes the edge off for that first purchase, removes a little bit of the risk. And it's probably cheaper than giving free shipping nowadays, unfortunately. But if you have an apparel, I'm just going to keep talking about boutiques because it's an easy one.
A lot of our listeners are apparel.
Perfect. Let me tell you, people do not know how to dress themselves.
Amen.
I had a short stint between brick and mortar and doing this and the retail job of being a personal fashion stylist. People do not know how to dress their body. They don't know how to accentuate and hide the things that they love and don't. They don't know how to mix patterns. They're still afraid to wear gold and silver jewelry at the same time. Like, there are so many things that you can teach people about this, and at the same time, give them a curated collection of your product that they can go buy and feel really great in. So again, if you are online, what is the conversation that you would have with them in person? And how can you create that on the internet? A quiz, a product recommendation quiz, great way to do this, especially in an apparel and accessory thing. And the other thing is, when you're talking about social media, when you are growing a following there, the number one thing you should be asking yourself is, how do I get them off of Instagram, onto my email list, and potentially on my website to buy? Because like you mentioned, if Instagram goes away, you lose your account. It was really weird. Someone like cloned my account on Instagram.
That is happening so much.
Yes, they impersonated me. And first of all, I'm like, I'm nobody on Instagram. I have like 2,300 followers. Like, what are you impersonating me for? Yeah, they did start messaging people. So luckily I was able to like get the word out and get them taken down. But like, there's just so many weird things that happen. So there are a couple of tools that can help you do this. One of them is a tool called ManyChat, and it's approved with Instagram. They work really closely together. And what it allows you to do is you can automate DMs to people. So if you've ever seen on Instagram, someone says, comment some word and I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
Right? That triggers an automation in ManyChat.
What's it called? ManyChat?
Many, M-A-N-Y, chat. So you say, hey, comment the word link and I'll send you the link. And once they do that, it opens up this 24-hour window where you are allowed to DM that person. Mm-hmm. And you can DM them and you can either send them the link, or if you want them to sign up for something, you can actually get them to sign up for your email without ever leaving Instagram. Yeah. They do it right in the DM, and then you integrate that with your email service provider and it pushes their information over, and you can trigger a welcome email and all that good stuff. So, this is a business. We have to be really intentional about how we are getting people from point A to point B. And I just think it's so important. And I know it just feels like a lot of work. Like, being a business owner is exhausting. It just is. Sometimes it is, but a nap.
So much has changed. And I feel like and that's the reason why I love having people like yourself on, because I've said before is that I really want to give retailers, because this is not about me. This is really about, retail is a very lonely business, as we all know. You sit in your store, you deal with employees, you deal with shoplifters, you deal with weird people, you deal with late shipments. I mean, all of these things. And I feel like the message I keep getting back from people is we're learning so much from your guests and from yourself about just what we deal with every day. And I feel like this is one of those toolbox things that I feel like everyone needs, like drastically needs. I'm sorry, my husband's getting back. But I think that some of this information is changing so fast that you need to keep up with it to a certain level. You do need to educate yourself on some of this, and just that ManyChat, like. I forget what it was, somebody that I signed up for a class, and it was brilliant. It was like, comment this, yes. And then her message comes up and here's this. And I think, God, that's so brilliant. I wish I could figure out how that works, because I'm not the person, but to circle back around to, like getting something back. One thing I think about for retailers if you give your email address, we will send you our picks of a mix and match apparel for the holiday season, and have all these, because now, like, with what I love about the iPhones now, where you can click on a photo and it takes away the whole background, and you can do a beautiful flat lay with that of all these different mix and match outfits for everything that you sell, including the jewelry, including gifts for the people that don't know how to mix patterns and don't know, and show all the items separate and then show all of them together. It's a lot of work, but I feel like something like that, people would understand. They see it. It's instant gratification, because that's how all of us buy, is instant That's how I have
100%
shit that I don't need.
Yeah.
I gotta click here.
Yeah.
But I feel like that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be amazing. At the beginning of the pandemic, when that happened, I was still working my day job. I was doing this on the side, and I was getting ready to leave my day job. And then the pandemic happened, and my husband and I were like, oh, maybe we should wait because we're not really sure what's happening. He's also an entrepreneur. We were like, no, it's not the time. But even then, I was buying shoes. Where was I going that I needed shoes? Literally nowhere. But I was still buying them because I freaking love shoes. So, and some of those shoes, honestly, I haven't even freaking worn them. Don't tell my husband.
You don't even want to know what my garage sale looks like trying to get, half of the shit had tags on it. And even my husband, he listens to this, so he's going to hear, he knows, but it's like, it is shocking the amount of shit of instant gratification stuff I buy or buy because it's cute and I need something for me. And it's like, I want that. And it's like, and then how I never wear it. It's like, like that. And all I wear, everyone who knows me and follows MC Design knows all I wear is leggings, t-shirts, and tennis shoes because I'm up on ladders. I'm moving things around. Like, so why am I buying some of these things?
Yeah, I know. I wear jeans, t-shirt, a pair of heels, or a flat, depending upon what's going on. And that's literally it. But I love all the other stuff too. So, but yeah, I think part of it too, when you're thinking about the in-person piece of it and just all the ways that you can serve your customers, and it's true for e-com too, but like when someone comes into a small boutique versus going to the department store and all that, they're coming because they want a more intimate, personalized experience, right? Like they want to talk to the owner and find out what's new and what they're bringing in and what's trending right now. And like, that's why they go there. Otherwise they could just go and get 40% off of everything all the time with all the coupons they give out, right? So create that experience. And I think that, and this happened to me, even with starting Ecommerce Badassery, I took for granted all the knowledge I had. I thought every e-commerce business knew how important
that's kind of what I feel like.
Like I thought everyone knew this already, just like you having the boutique. When I started it, I think I already knew because I had worked in retail for so long, but like they're coming there for help. I had multiple of them, but this one woman that used to come in and she would shop for her and her daughter, and she would just pop in and be like, what's new? And I'd show her and she'd be like, okay, thanks. And buy that and go. Like she just wanted whatever was new and cute every single week. And I was like, thank you. But there are so many ways that you can add value, and it's stuff that you love and enjoy anyway, right? Like if you opened a brick and mortar apparel boutique, it's because you love what's new and trending and cool and putting outfits together. So just do it in a digital way and send it to them. So many easy ways to do it. Sometimes I miss all that, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
We're moving and I'm like, do I want to open another store? And I can't even believe I'm saying those words, but I love guts. I get to go in and rework everybody else's stuff. I didn't buy it. I didn't put out the money, but it's like, I love it so much. It's like that puzzle. And then I'm like, I want to do that again. And I keep going back to like, I love going somewhere different every single day, and every single day I work with something different, and I get to make it still look beautiful and amazing. But it's like, I do miss that one-on-one experience with customers. I do miss, because that's, going back to the stupid client books, like more like when I had my stores at Fred's, it was before obviously iPhones and whatnot. And you had celebrities coming in, paparazzi weren't allowed in the store. So there was somebody stopping them so they could be in the store and be comfortable and not feel like they were, being watched or photographed or, even with that, we were able to gain their trust, and they gave us their addresses and their phone numbers. But with that, to be able to say, and you could still do this, I feel like, with e-com through messaging and whatnot, is like, hey, just want to let you know, here's all the new shirts that you wanted. I've pulled them aside for you. That it's not as easy to do the e-com, but I pulled them aside from you. We'll have them here in the back for you. And we send a thank you note to every single customer, even if you only bought socks, got a thank you card. And it's like, there's something about that human touch and knowing the person who's sending it to you. I mean, my kids babysat Tom Hanks' kids, because we had gained so much trust in customers. They became friends. And that's what I really miss about being in a retail store and seeing your customers and how are you and how are your kids. And I feel like if you can portray that through e-com and you can be that person on social media where they trust you, I feel like that is such a big portion to success for people.
Absolutely. Freaking 100%. And it's harder to do that on e-commerce, but there are tools that can help you. There are tools that you can hook to your email service provider where after someone places an order, you send off a little notification to a company that will create a handwritten note for you and mail it off to the customer. Right. So you can recreate that without having to do all of the work because obviously you have a lot more volume on e-commerce. And I remember, I don't think they do it anymore. And I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was some jewelry e-commerce store. And what they did is on their website, you could have a video chat with one of their customer service people to show them like what the earrings would look like on, right? And so maybe you don't want to be tied to your computer like that. But if you think about, okay, if someone walked in my store and I wanted to show them this item or this earring, whatever it is, what would I do? Hold it up. They would try it on. They would touch it. They would feel it, right? You could just create a video that does that. Put it on your product page. Now you've recreated that experience and you just did it one time and it's for everyone. I also, if you do have an e-commerce store, please go watch the home shopping channels.
Yes, they're brilliant sellers.
And watch the way that they sell. Because not only are you seeing it on, but they're talking about how it feels. What's the weight of it, right? Like they are trying to wordsmith how it would feel if you were wearing it. And anyone who has a product-based business who is going to sell on there, you got to go through a whole training to do it. They have a very specific way that they sell, and it is like the best education you could ever get. And I think that's really helpful for doing live video or just creating video for your e-commerce store.
I'm putting that down on the notes. I have two questions because I've taken so much time. I'm like looking at the time, like, okay, we've gone into an hour plus. I have two questions I always ask everybody. You being creative and working with people all the time, like, where do you find inspiration?
It comes a little bit from everywhere, but it's funny because I don't necessarily feel inspired by the idea. I feel inspired by the result that people get or the way their faces light up when something unlocks, right? After I've said something. And that is why I think after all of these years and this crazy journey, I am exactly where I'm supposed to be now.
I love that.
Oh, cool.
Final question is, what is a piece of advice that, because you've given so much, but what is a single piece of advice that you would give any of your retailers that you work with?
Email. It is not dead. Just like brick and mortar is not dead, email is not dead. You could always try, I like to call it email's cooler cousin, SMS. If your customer's into it, definitely give it a shot. But nobody else is going to sell your stuff. If you are not talking about your business, nobody else is talking about your business. Your customers want to hear from you. And we have to stop being worried. Because the number one thing is like, oh, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to be annoying. Yeah. Right? There are product-based businesses that email every single day. And you know what? You're not going to be for everybody. And that's okay. You're not pizza. You're not tequila. Like you can't make everybody happy. And you don't have to make everybody happy. So email, hands down, every business the best ROI of any marketing activity. So if it comes down to post on social or send an email, send an email.
I love it. Okay. So tell everyone where they can find you and all, both your social media channels as well as your coaching and your Facebook group.
Yeah, amazing. So I am Ecommerce Badassery in all of the places, and I actually have a special gift for everyone. So if you go to ecommercebadassery.com/TRW for the retail 4, there's a gift there for you.
We will make sure we have the link in the show notes to make sure. Thank you so much. Like, something tells me this is not our last conversation. Like, I have all these things going off in my head, but thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited for everyone to hear this because this is chock full of so many nuggets.
Yes. Thank you again so much for having me. We have to get you onto Ecommerce Badassery. We'll figure that out when you have less going on in your life. But it's been a blast, and thanks everyone for hanging out with us today.
Thanks so much.